Well, good Saturday evening. You know what time it is. It's happy half hour at the Great Ghost Vineyards. We're so excited to have you guys here tonight. Thank you for joining us yet again. I gotta walk slower. I'm not seeing the check-ins yet. Come on, guys, you can do it. There we go. There's all the friends and family. Oh my gosh, we love it. You guys are so faithful. Look at my crazy 80s hair tonight. Okay, you know what time it is. Hi, John and Diane. Good to see you guys. Okay, ready? And Paul down in Florida. What? Wait, no. Oh my goodness, I'm a little rattled. I had somebody talking to me until the very last minute. Here we go. Hi, Beth. Okay, let's hear those applause. Hi, Murray family. 9 weeks in a row, and you guys. All right, we are so happy to have you all here tonight for the happy half hour, starring Al and Cheryl. And guess what, Al? You are on.
Are we on now?
Yes, we're on now.
Well, welcome to the 9th consecutive happy half hour here at Grey Ghost Studio 3D. We can't tell you how excited we are to have you. By the way, I got my first haircut in 11 weeks this week. I actually lost 2 pounds. So this has really been an exciting moment for us. We can't begin to thank you for all your support, the incredible encouragement you've given us during this dilemma, and to show our appreciation, we're going to do something really special for those of you who have watched our show. As a way of expressing our thanks, with the purchase of 4 bottles or more, you are going to receive this beautiful 8x10 glossy photo of Al, of me and Cheryl sitting in Studio 7F. We're really excited about this. These will actually be signed based on what you'd like to have on your individual package. And again, they're easily designed for framing so that you can hang them in your living room or anywhere that you would like to display these beautiful 8x10 pictures. We're going to have more on this later on in the show. So thank you again. Again, when you make that purchase of 4 bottles or more, be sure you request this special gift. Now.
Yes, Roger, it is suitable for framing.
Now, let's touch base with just a hint of humor before we start this wonderful program. A gentleman who was an artist went into the gallery where his art was being displayed and went up to the proprietor and said, has there been any interest whatsoever in the artwork that I've been painting? And the gallery owner said, actually quite a bit. In fact, there's some really good news, but unfortunately a little bad news too. But a gentleman came in and said, if you ended up dying, would your artwork appreciate? And I said, absolutely. As a result, he bought all 15 of your paintings. Well, the artist was thrilled and said, well, what possibly could be the bad news? He said, well, the gentleman was your doctor. With that, I think now it's time that we pour the wine for this evening. And what we selected is our 2018 Chardonnay. Now, before I turn the show over to Cheryl, give me a second to pour the wine. Once again, you remember from past shows that it's always important to keep your hands away from your face. Therefore, Cheryl will be having 2 glasses, as I will, and this gives us a chance to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to avoid contact. Amy, I actually remembered this time. Now, let me turn it over to Cheryl. The only thing I'm going to ask her to do is be a little briefer than she normally is with her comments since we have so much material to cover. Well, she wasn't as brief as I expected, but I think you get the general gist. Thank you, Cheryl, for your input. Now, let's taste this fabulous 2018 Chardonnay. Wow, That's a great, great wine. I'm so glad we picked this tonight. This is one of 3 Chardonnays that we produce, and the first one that has ever been featured on this program. So it gives you some idea of what you're experiencing tonight. The 2018 is fermented in French oak. The barrels that are being used were initially used for our reserve Chardonnay, which means these go into barrels that range anywhere from 2 to 6 years old. They're medium toast light, so the idea here is not to over oak this wine, and it stays in oak for anywhere from 6 months to maybe just a hint longer. We do not put this through malolactic, which we do on the reserve Chardonnay, so you don't pick up that buttery finish that you would in the reserve. We're also using a French yeast, which gives you that really nice, almost a Granny Smith apple characteristic, which is characteristic of this wine. So with that, this is the wine that we're enjoying tonight. Now a real brief update on the vineyard and the winery. We did some bottling this week. We've got a wonderful staff of young girls, both high school and college students. We bottled the 2018 Petit Verdot and the 2017 Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. Neither of these have been set for a release date, but we do want you to know they're now in the process of bottle aging. The vineyard work began in earnest. We've got the staff out there, and due to spraying, I was able to actually do a survey of the entire vineyard yesterday. Unfortunately, the Chardonnay is as bad a shape as we had basically projected last week, so we're really disappointed. Normally a Chardonnay crop comes in at between 6 to 8 tons. Right now I'm estimating we're going to be lucky to get about 200 pounds. So it's going to be a significant reduction in production. The Riesling also was going to be a smaller crop than normal. However, we are looking at the rest of them in pretty good shape. And interestingly enough, although I didn't see it, the aromas coming out of the vineyard indicate that bloom has now started. So we are moving in that general direction. Now, it's time to take a look at what happened with regards to the quiz that we had last week. Before we tell you who won, we're going to go over the individual questions so you'll know what the actual answers are. The first question that was posed was, what performance did Al and Cheryl see on the first date? The answer was
Bob Hope.
Bob Hope. Amy is going to let you know what the biggest mistake was on that particular question.
Actually, just about everybody got Bob Hope right.
Well, so much for that.
So they made it through the first question.
Okay. The second question was, when did Al make his first wine?
1969.
This was one where we had a lot of people guessing 71. Cheryl, what is significant about 1971?
That was when we got married.
Yes,
in
but
November.
but the first bottle of wine was 69.
Now, some people will say that 71 was more important of a date than 69. I have to second that. The final question was, what's Amy and Cheryl's favorite wine, or parentheses, wines? And in this case, I'll let Amy answer that question.
Of course, the reserves.
The reserves what?
Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon.
Now, what seems to be the biggest dilemma out here?
With that answer,
Yeah.
some people thought that there was no way, as being mothers, that Cheryl and I could possibly pick a favorite wine. But of course, we do have our favorites, don't we, Cheryl?
Yes, we do.
Well, as a result of the tens of thousands of responses that we got to this quiz, only 2 people got all 3 of these answers right. What this told me was that these two individuals are not drinking enough wine while they watch this program. However, after a great deal of discussion between Amy and Cheryl, we decided we're not going to penalize these two individuals for that grievous mistake. What I am going to do now is hold the answer. The two who received the right answers are in these 2 pages. And what I'm going to do is hold them up and allow Cheryl to read the answers.
Now, Al, are we doing a drawing amongst these two, or what is happening with these two?
Let me have the answers read first before we can talk about what is going to happen.
So, can we get a drum roll, please?
Very good. Okay, Cheryl, would you read the answers? Now, Cheryl, will you read them out loud?
Jill and Carl Detel and Anna Conlon.
Congratulations to both of you.
Can we hold those up for the screen? Thank you. Yay! The only people not drinking enough and paying too good attention.
As a result, these two winners are going to be receiving the 2018 Vidal as a prize for doing such a great job in the competition. We really couldn't have a drawing between the two of you since you both were so sober. We figured you both deserved the wine. So thank you again to everybody who participated and made this quiz one of the most successful we have ever done on this show. Now we get to the questions and answers. The first question came from Diane. Diane, you were asking, how is the vineyard doing with all the rain we've been having? We're in a kind of a microclimate here, Diane, and we have not gotten the rain that so many people have gotten up in the Northern Virginia or going down into the Charlottesville area. However, we have gotten rain. If you're going to get rain, this is the time you want it. You want that moisture in the vines and in the ground when these vines are growing. So to answer your question, it has not been a problem. If anything, we're in really good shape going into spring now that we, knock on wood, the frost season is past us. RJ, you asked a great question about, have we reached our growing capacity? Or do you have any more room for expanding the vineyard to produce more? The answer is yes. We do have land that still is open. However, what Cheryl and I are doing right now is actually concentrating on replanting some of the vineyards, some of the sections that have basically dropped in production due to the age of the vines, primarily white grapes. So to answer your question, we do have the room. We're not concentrating in that direction yet, but it does give us the option should we decide to expand. We had a couple of questions that came from Oregon, and that was from Bob and Suzanne. These were a little more on the personal side. What was the favorite non-Grey Ghost wine that we enjoy? And we thought this was an interesting opportunity to give you a little bit more information about Virginia and its capabilities of growing grapes. Cheryl and I are really big on Sauvignon Blancs, and Virginia just doesn't have what it takes to produce that beautiful grassy character that comes from the New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. So when we have a Sauvignon Blanc, that's the direction we go, and we always try to go to the region of Marlborough, which is a great location for growing Sauvignon Blancs. Another grape that Cheryl and I, or wine that Cheryl and I really enjoy, are Zinfandels. We love the rich, intense flavors of those. They grow great with red sauced dishes, spaghetti, this type of thing. And we found that wines coming out of the Paso Robles region of California is a great location for picking up Zinfandels. So when we're looking for that, that's the location we have a tendency to go to. Now you also asked a second question, What's your favorite Pinot Noir from the Oregon area? We're not really particularly familiar with the actual wineries in Oregon, but I will say this. If you're going to pick up a Pinot Noir, our choice would be an Oregon Pinot Noir. They have the climate. It's a very delicate grape and a very fickle grape, and it's one that really seems to be working for the Oregon location. Do I have some questions coming in?
Yes, so Teresa Whitehead asked, I guess this is more generally speaking, how are the vines doing since our visit 2 weeks ago?
You would not believe the growth. In fact, our young kids were out on Thursday of last week and then came in on Tuesday and were stunned that they had grown in those short periods of time by up to 2 feet. So the vines are really taking off. We're really pushing now to get them tied and get them trained as quickly as we possibly can. Another question?
Yes, Karen asked, what is the difference between a vineyard and a winery?
When we say Grey Ghost Vineyards, we're also implying that it's a winery. A vineyard can stand alone without a winery, and a vineyard merely is the growing of the fruit, of the grapes. However, in Virginia, the Farm Winery Act allowed a winery to go in as a farm agricultural unit, provided it had a vineyard on the premises. And that's why when we initially named Grey Ghost, it was Grey Ghost Vineyards, indicating that our vineyard was actually producing grapes supporting the winery. A commercial winery does not have to have a vineyard on premises in Virginia. So a commercial winery can be purchasing grapes not only from Virginia growers, but also from out of state. So again, we're a Virginia farm winery, which means that our fruit has to come from Virginia. Of course, that's not an issue since it all comes right off our own property. Great question. Now I think it's time to do our segment of research. Today's research is going to focus on how to care for your wine and take care of both the young and the older wines that you may have purchased over time. I think the best way to do this is compare the wine to a baby. So what we have here is a special baby doll. And what I'm going to do is walk through what you don't want to do to your baby. The last thing you'd want to do is make your baby stand at long periods of time upright, as the baby tends to get tired and over time will either want to fall over or all the blood will rush to its feet. Also, you don't want to shake your baby. A baby is a wonderful, charming little creature that's very delicate, and to shake the baby would be a no-no. The other thing you don't want to do is leave the baby in sunlight for any length of time. What that would do is cause the baby's delicate skin to be burned and give a sunburn, which would not be a healthy thing. And last but not least, the last thing you'd ever do with your baby is put it in the refrigerator and then take it out and leave it in a very hot car in July and then take it back out again and put it back in a refrigerator. Those type of things would just not be healthy. So now let's say a baby, we're going to take the baby and we're going to put the baby very gently down. And now take a look at the wine. In all seriousness, a wine is as delicate as a baby. There are 4 things that will damage wine over time. One is fluctuating temperature. For those of you that are familiar with our wine, especially our library, you'll remember that the library wines are stored in a cellar, and the cellar has a constant temperature, never varying by more than 4 degrees year-round. As long as that wine stays at a constant temperature, it will not expand or contract, and therefore will not cause the wine to leak or ultimately be damaged. Secondly, movement. Like I was talking about the baby doll, you don't want to shake your wine. You want to leave it resting as long as you possibly can so that wine is basically at a permanent rest location until you're ready to have it. Once again, did you notice that the library is actually in the lower level of our barrel room? Therefore, it minimizes even movement by walking on the floor. The other item is light. The barrel room, if you can remember, is totally dark. The worst condition you can possibly do is have a wine bottle exposed to UV light. Most wine bottles today are UV protected. However, it's just not a good idea to expose that wine to light, sunlight, and that's why, once again, we keep them in the dark. And last but not least, all Grey Ghost wines are bottled with natural cork. So that, like a baby, has to be laid down. What we do is, if you remember, going into the library, the bottles are actually in a cradle and are stored in a laid down position. What that does is keep that wine always exposed to the cork, so the cork does not have a chance to dry out and ultimately cause that wine to leak. Are there any questions about caring for your old wines?
No, but Roger said that once you put your baby in the refrigerator, you leave it in the refrigerator. Lisa Carey commented that she never has any leftover baby to worry about. And Nancy, I can't see the second half of your comment, but I'm sure we're going to enjoy this after the fact.
Well, once again, very good, Roger. If you got a baby and you put it in the refrigerator, keep it there, okay? Now, since we're talking about babies, I think now would be a good time to take one more step into our family. And this time I really want to concentrate on our 4 grandchildren and how much they have now contributed. One of the things we loved about California, one particular winery, was Marisu, which bragged about having 5 generations. We're up to 3. Andrea, our oldest granddaughter, 17, is now participating in the tasting room and has been helping us both in the bottling and in vineyard. So it's really exciting to see the oldest of the 4 now actually dealing with customers and dealing with the wine directly. Thomas, at the age of 15, has now become intricately involved in both bottlings and in vineyard management and operation. So again, both of Amy's children have really jumped in and helped Cheryl and I. Now let's run over to Al and Becca's little ones. Caitlin, our little 7-year-old wonder, has taken over the maintenance of our message board, helps stock the tasting room, and does the standard cleaning with a 6 to 8 foot dust mop that she runs around all the door handles. And Albert, our little one at the age of 4, helps Becca set up the group tastings. We're really looking forward to getting back to that, as well as being the single best sweeper we've ever had. And he's got a little toy John Deere tractor that he drives around maintaining the fields. So as you can see, all have become vested. We're really excited to have them participating in the whole program. Now, once again, we want to re-emphasize the very special reminder about the special offers that we're going to be offering you with the purchase of 4 bottles or more. This is the beautifully 8 by 10 color photograph, on glossy paper, of Cheryl and me in Studio 7F. This is something that just is a rare collector's item. We know the demand will probably far exceed supplies, as we've already received over 20,000 responses, but this is okay. We will somehow make it possible for everyone to receive one of these beautiful pictures. Framing can be framed, and definitely hung in a place of priority in your home or in your office or anywhere you want to take this particular beautiful painting or this particular beautiful photograph.
Sherry commented early on that she thinks that will look very beautiful in her cellar. Remember, you must ask for this when you make your purchase. We are not making this available to the general public.
Well, we made it through this program and actually got it much quicker through than we were expecting. So what we want to do now is let you know that next week will be our season 1 finale, when Cheryl and I will be enjoying the 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon. What's really exciting about this wine is it's one of the most recognized, awarded Cabernets that we've produced, receiving a double gold in San Francisco Chronicle competition. We'll be talking about a little bit more about that later on. Also, we'll be notifying you via the email and our website about the start of the season 2 program. And that will be starting a little bit later in late June or possibly as late as July. So do keep that in mind. One of the other things we'd like to ask you to do is give some thought to the possibility of joining us for an actual program, a happy half hour live, where you will be part of the live audience actually participating in the program. If you're interested in that, please notify
Replies at greyghostvineyards.com.
and based on the number of replies, we'll determine whether or not we will have to have a drawing to get everybody there. Any more questions, Amy, that we should be handling?
Let me see if I can scroll. So just to let you all know, we are going to be on the air next week. So this is not the last week. Oh, Claire McHale said, we noticed in the most recent Smithsonian Associate magazine that Grey Ghost is featured as a final stop for the July trip. Is the event on or is it postponed?
To the best of our knowledge, it's still on, but we have not heard anything from the Smithsonian to indicate otherwise. Well, with that, let me just close with one more little story about a man who pushes his car into a garage and tells the mechanic that the engine just died on him in the street. After tinkering under the hood, the car comes back to life and just roars as if nothing had ever been a problem. The man then said, "This is just great. How did you fix it?" And he said, "Just crap in the carburetor," replied the mechanic. At which time the man looked at him and said, "Well, how often do I have to do that?"
Bada bing! Bada
With
bing.
that, thank you again so much for joining us for this happy half hour. We look forward to seeing you at the season finale next Saturday, same time. And again, thanks for all of your wonderful support. Do we have any credits?
This has been produced and bottled by Grey Ghost Vineyards. Thank you for joining us.